What's up, everybody? It's Markia, aka the Money Plug, aka your credit specialist's favorite credit specialist. And today we're going to be talking about how is your credit score calculated? A lot of us are exposed to the fact that we have credit scores and we've been denied for things, we've gotten high interest rates, or we just know that we have a credit score. But do you understand how that credit score is calculated and what you can do to manipulate those categories? So we're also going to talk about the different types of credit scores and which credit bureaus use which scores for whatever category. You're definitely going to want to take notes from this video, or at least save it so that you can come back and reference it later. But let's get into it. If you've ever searched how your credit score is calculated, then I'm pretty sure you've seen this photo before. These 5 categories and the percentages tied to them are what are used to calculate your credit score, no matter which credit score you're using. The categories are on-time payments, credit utilization, length of credit history, mix of accounts, and increase/new accounts. The information reporting to your credit report under these categories are used to determine what your credit score is. So if you've missed a couple payments on a credit card, or if you only have credit cards, or if you've only been building credit for about 6 months, all of these things are factored together in order to generate a numerical representation of your overall creditworthiness. And these categories are how they do that. So let's break those down. The largest category, without a doubt, is your payment history category. So when we're telling you to pay your bills, it's not just because we want to hear ourselves talk or for the betterment of those businesses. It's for your credit. Missed payments have a huge impact negatively on your credit score. And the more recent that late payment is, the worse of an effect it has. Now, time plays a huge role in healing late payments and kind of recovering those points, but there are other things that you could do to help your credit score heal faster. Now, it's not an exact science. However, it is said that 7 on-time payments could help you recover the points that you lost with that one late payment. But it's important for you to understand that even though you've recovered some of those points, it's still affecting your credit worthiness, which can be viewed as 2 separate things. Even though I got the points back, which is good, I still have the late payment reporting on my credit and I can be denied for it, which is bad. So make sure you guys are paying your bills on time, please. The next largest section is going to be credit utilization, or use of available credit. This is 30% of your overall score. Now, a lot of people get confused in this section because when you do your research, you'll notice that they say that you need to have 30% total credit utilization in order to get the most points out of this section. But a lot of people confuse that for 30% on this card, 30% on this card, and that's not the case. When you have credit cards and lines of credit, you add up all of the credit limits, and that's going to tell you the total amount of credit that you have available for you to use. Now you're going to add up all of the balances that you hold on these cards. Just add them all together. And that's going to give you an amount of how much of my available credit am I already using. Now, when you calculate that as a percentage, that is going to tell you what your credit utilization is. Even though a lot of people say 30% is kind of like the golden area, I'm going to take it a step far and say that your credit utilization needs to be at 10% or less by the time it's reporting to the credit bureaus. Now, an easy way to kind of manage this is we all should have assigned purposes for our credit cards. One for groceries, one for gas, things like that. And so if you know the total amount of available credit you have, you can calculate what 10% of that is and then spread the amounts to your credit cards. So what this means is that before the end of my billing cycle, I have a predetermined amount that I have to pay my card down to so that I can make sure that I am maximizing the points that I'm getting out of my credit utilization section. And you're going to do this for every one of your credit cards. Now, it's a little tedious, and I get it. You could avoid all this by not using your cards, but you could also end up having those accounts closed due to inactivity if you're not using them often enough, or if they don't find value in having you as a client. You have to understand, credit cards aren't the bad guy. A lot of people don't use credit cards because they're afraid to use credit cards. But when used properly, these are a very useful tool to rebuilding or setting a solid foundation for your credit future. And one of the ways that I suggest using your credit cards is use them for everything. I have an assigned purpose for each of my credit cards. One for gas, one for groceries. I use this one for clothes for the kids, etc., etc. Because I already planned on spending that money, I already have the cash. So I'm only swiping my credit card so that I can get cash back or points or whatever the reward system is for these cards, because I'm still spending the same amount of money that I planned on spending anyway. It's just now I'm getting something for it. So while they get paid based off of like merchant fees and everything else, and then I'm paying it completely off so I don't have to worry about interest, I didn't spend any more money than I already had allotted to spend. It messes my budget up in no way, shape, or form. But that is also why I tell people to stop looking at credit cards as your emergency. You guys need to have emergency funds for that sort of thing, because when you use a credit card and you don't have the money to pay it back, that's when you got to start factoring interest. Okay, so now if I'm making minimum payments, how long is it going to take me to pay this off because of the interest that's accumulating every time I make a payment without paying it off? So these are some things that you should definitely think about when using your credit cards. But credit utilization is without a doubt the easiest section to manipulate because of you using your credit cards. So if you ever just need some points quick on your credit score, like just a couple points, this is the first place that you should check and make some changes to ensure that you're really maximizing the amount of points you're getting from this section. The next section is one that is often ignored, time or length of credit history. How long have you been building credit? It's cool that you just graduated high school and you got a credit card and you've had it for 3 months, but that's not enough to get you a gold Amex. You need history. The whole thing about a credit report is that it is supposed to demonstrate a pattern. You can't really prove a pattern with only 3 months of credit history. You need time. This is why a lot of parents will add their children on as authorized users, because this allows them to borrow the history associated with this account. So that even though, I just got my own credit card 3 months ago, I have a history already reporting on my credit report of having good credit. Because remember, an authorized user is only beneficial if you have consistently low reporting utilization and on-time payment history. And providing that good history to your child, that allows them to kind of start off on the right foot and actually have history that they could leverage for better cards, lower interest rates, that sort of thing. The next category is mix of accounts. This is 10% of your overall score. What I mean by mix of accounts is you have to understand that they're trying to judge your ability to pay back any kind of debt. And so with mix of accounts, this means that you're good at paying revolving debt as well as installment debt, meaning all types of debt. You're a well-rounded bill payer, right? You want to demonstrate a pattern of I pay my bills are paid, right? So it just means that you got some credit cards, you got some loans, you pay your stuff on time, you really don't have any issues. That's what mix of accounts is. You need to have a good mix of accounts in order to demonstrate that you pay all types of debt, not just a specific type of debt, or prioritize one over the other. The very last category is inquiries/new accounts. And the reason why I added new accounts on there is because a lot of people are under the misconception that you're not supposed to have any inquiries. But that's not the case. They want to see inquiries. They want to know that you're opening new accounts. But what they don't want to see is you having thousands of inquiries in a 12-month time period, because that's a huge red flag. Because why are you having to ask so many people for money? Did they tell you no? And if they told you no, why? It makes you look like you're begging. Nobody likes a beggar. So it's important to understand that at a maximum, you need to have around 5 or 6 inquiries in a 12-month time period. Now, for those of you who are car shopping, this is why it is very important for you guys to try to get pre-approvals before you go. Because when you go to a car dealership, they're going to run your credit in the ground. There's no other way to say it, but they're going to run your credit 50 million ways from Sunday if you don't have the best credit, and to try to find you the best deal. And yes, if you apply for a car with all these different lenders within 30 days, it only affects your score one time. But what you also have to take into account is the conversation we had earlier about credit score and credit worthiness, right? So yeah, it only affects your score once, but each individual inquiry is annotated on your credit report. And when people pull your credit and see the amount of inquiries that you had, you can still be denied things because of the amount of inquiries you had, no matter what your credit score is. So it's really important that yes, you are supposed to be applying for new accounts. However, you need to make sure you're limiting that to how many you are applying in a year. Like it needs to be less than 10, without a doubt, less than 10. Now, while breaking down how your credit score is calculated, it's also important to talk about how many credit scores there are, because what you think your credit score is and then what actually shows up on a piece of paper could be two different things. And it's not that you don't know what your credit score is, it's just that you may be looking at the wrong credit scores. So let's talk about that. Now, when we're talking about how your credit score is calculated, it's also important for us to talk about the two scoring models, FICO and your VantageScore 3.0. How many credit scores are there? A lot of times you'll go to the car dealership or you'll apply for a home, and what you see your credit score as on your credit monitoring subscription could be completely different than what they're telling you your credit score is when they hand you the piece of paper that shows you that they pulled your credit. And the reason isn't because you're miscalculating your score. You literally could just be looking at the wrong one. Let's talk about FICO and VantageScore for a second. Now, like I said, there are two types of credit scoring models or credit scores, your FICO and your VantageScore. But FICO itself has multiple credit scores up under it. See, FICO base scores help predict a consumer's ability to pay back just a general type of debt, but FICO also offers industry-specific scores, which judges your ability to pay back a specific type of debt. And this is why FICO is often the industry standard, depending on what you're applying for, because they offer that industry-specific option for your score. Let's break down the different types of FICO scores that they have. So if you look base score wise, they even have multiple of those. For Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, who are the big three or the main credit reporting agencies that are used in financial decisions, they all offer FICO score 9, FICO score 8, and then the newer score, which is FICO score 10 and 10T. Now, it's important to note that while FICO score 10 and 10T is publicly available, no lenders have come out to say that they are using this score for any credit decisions. So I say pay attention to it, but not too much attention to it. You should definitely want to prioritize your FICO 8 and your FICO 9 when researching your creditworthiness. Now, remember the industry-specific scores I was telling you about? Well, you can see those here in your auto scores. Now, Experian uses your FICO Auto 9, 8, and 2. Whereas Equifax uses FICO Auto 985 and TransUnion uses FICO Auto Score 9, 8, and 4. This just means that when a company reaches out to Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion and requests a score to determine whether or not they're going to give you a car or what your interest rate is going to be, they're picking one of those three scores when they reach out to this company. So that's important for you to take a look at as well. Remember, your industry-specific scores uses the same category, but the different categories are weighed differently when determining what is the most important for them in this industry, for them to see, for them to prioritize. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind when you're looking at these industry-specific scores. Now, credit cards, right? So these are the most popular scores used by these three credit bureaus. For Experian, it's your FICO bank card score 9, 8, and 2. And then I've also seen them use your FICO score 3. Equifax will use your FICO bank card scores 9, 8, and 5. TransUnion will use your FICO bank card score 9, 8, and 4. Now, it's important to note that banks have who they prefer to run your credit through. So a lot of times they're not checking all three credit bureaus, they're just checking one. Now, even though these are all the scores that are often checked when someone is applying for credit cards, when you apply for a card, they're not checking all three credit bureaus. Most lenders have their own specific bureau they like going to find that specific score. And in order to figure out which one it is, it's a quick Google search. You can say, hey, which credit bureau does the Apple Card look at? And it'll say, oh, Equifax, whatever, or Experian, whatever, or TransUnion, whatever. But it'll usually be one of these scores that is used to determine whether or not they're going to give you an account and what your interest rate is going to be. It's important to note that as far as mortgage lending goes, these scores are very antiquated. And as much as everybody would like them to use your FICO 8 or FICO 9, unfortunately, they just haven't aged with the times. So Experian uses your FICO score 2. Equifax uses your FICO score 5, and TransUnion uses your FICO score 4. But these scores all together are commonly referred to as your mortgage scores. Now, remember, when you're applying for a home loan, they'll look at all three scores, and what they'll do is they'll take the median score or the one in the middle. So it doesn't matter what's the highest or the lowest. That one in the middle is going to be the one that determines whether or not you're getting this house or what your interest rate is going to be. My personal recommendation to track all of your FICO scores in one place is MyFico.com, MyFico.com. I personally have a subscription with them, and I love being able to track all of my FICO scores in one place. And then not only that, I get reports every quarter as well as suggestions on, hey, this is affecting your credit score, this is what you should do. So if you're looking for a credit monitoring subscription to track all of your FICO scores, I highly suggest MyFico. Now, unlike FICO, the Vantage scoring model does not have industry-specific scores. You get one score, which is your base score, and it judges your ability to pay back all types of debt. VantageScore is available for free using Credit Karma, Credit Sesame. You can have paid subscriptions with Identity IQ, Smart Credit, those sort of things. But it's important to know that you need to be tracking both scoring models because there are some lenders who use VantageScore and there are some lenders who use FICO. So if you know where you stand with everyone, you're not scrambling to try to capture points at the last second, or you're not getting denied and then being confused about the denial as far as what is affecting your chances of being approved. So, how you feeling? I know this was a lot of information in one video, but it's important to take both pieces of this video and put it together. You need to understand what scores lenders are looking at when you're applying for things in the different industries. And you also need to understand how those scores are calculated. If you guys have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments, or you can contact me using one of my social media accounts or the website that's been floating around down at the bottom. I also have a free DIY assistance group on Facebook called Plugged In, the Credit Clubhouse, that you are more than welcome to join. And you can always follow my page on Facebook at Markia B, aka The Money Plug. That's all the information I have for you guys today. But if you have any suggestions, come on, send them my way and I'll make a video just for you. All right, I'll see you guys later.